and help us to be more like you. So in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so we're in the middle of a series about our identity and who God desires for us to be. So 2 weeks ago, I spoke. We were in that room over there. Who remembers what we talked about? Anybody? Okay. Everybody's really important to God? Yeah. And then I talked about the fact that you're created with great intention. That God put a lot of thought into creating you. They formed you. We talked about all the intricacies of the human body. Last week, Pastor Mike spoke, and what did he talk about? Anybody remind me? Your worth. Right? He talked about what determines an item's worth is how much somebody's willing to pay for that item. And so he talked about what each and every one of us is worth to God. And so tonight, we talked about the intention behind your creation. We talked about your worth. Tonight we're going to talk about the purpose. That God created you for a purpose. God created you for a reason. There's something God has designed you to do. It's not like God just created you and was like, just wanted to create some sort of like giant ant farm experiment and just wanted to see what we would do. He created us with a purpose, with an intention in mind. And there's something that He wants each and every one of us to do. And I would suggest to you that if you don't find this, if you don't discover this thing that God wants you to do, if you don't live this thing out, that you will feel lost for a good chunk, if not all of your life. I know I did. I know lots of people who have. But there's something that God has created us to do, and it isn't really all that different. The thing that God has designed us to do is relatively the same for each of us. It just might take on a different shape. God has created us for a purpose, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's what our job is. But our job may help us fulfill that purpose that God has created us for. So I'm going to talk about 3 different pictures that Jesus gives us in the Bible that deal with this idea of us being created for a purpose. And so the first one is salt. Okay? You are the salt of the earth. Now I know you guys don't get salt in the cafeteria anymore. We shouldn't talk about it in here, but we are. Jesus says, He's talking to a group of people and He says, you are the salt of the earth. Now we use salt for a lot of different things nowadays. Okay, we use it to season food. We use it, we put it in boiling water sometimes. We use it to de-ice sidewalks. We gargle with salt water sometimes when we have a sore throat. We use salt for a lot of different things. So if Jesus said that to us today, we might be like, I'm the sore throat remedy for the world? I don't understand. I'm not sure I follow you. But see, back in Jesus' day, believe it or not, there were no refrigerators. Didn't have refrigerators. I know, shocking. So if they had, like, lamb, because they didn't really have, like, beef, but if they had lamb and they wanted to save it or preserve it, they had to cover it with salt. Because salt would preserve it for a little bit longer, help preserve the flavor, keep it from going bad, because they didn't have ice. They're in the desert, so it wasn't like, oh, we'll just get these blocks of ice, and just keep it in the snow, and it'll be all right. That didn't happen. And so Jesus says to this group of people, you are the salt of the earth. And so what He is saying to them is if you don't do what I've designed you to do, the earth will literally rot. Life, society, culture, relationships will rot if you don't do what I've created you to do. And we've seen, over the course of history, the cumulative effect of that rotting from people denying or disobeying or just straight up avoiding the purpose that God has created them for. We have things in our world now like human trafficking, which is where people sell other people. Okay, now we had slavery, and we think, oh, well, slavery's done away with, but it's not. We have kids on the other side of the planet that make our shoes and our clothes. And some of us don't even think twice about it. All we think about is, oh, I need those new shoes. And we're like, well, I gotta keep those kids employed, right? They gotta earn that 10 cents a day or whatever they're getting over there. So, I'm buying these shoes for the kids. That's what it's for. I heard somebody say one time, if it's so cheap to make all these sneakers, like you're using little slaves to make them, why do they keep getting more and more expensive? Like, what is what are the overheads for these sneakers? Like, why are we paying so much for sneakers that, we aren't paying anybody that much to make? But these are the kind of things that go on in our world. We have resources and services dedicated to helping people who have been bullied or abused, or who have gotten addicted to substances that drain the life out of them. And Jesus says, you're the salt of the earth. So if you do the thing that I've created you to do, if you do that thing, you'll preserve the goodness of life. You'll preserve human life, human relationships, the joy of living, the meaning of life, having significance in what you do. You'll preserve that. You will sustain that by doing what I've created you to do. You're the salt of the earth. Now, I could say you're the refrigerators of the earth, but it doesn't have, I don't know, it doesn't work the same. Then you're like, oh, I'm a giant box that I gotta go around and do I have an ice maker? No, that's not, we're getting off point here. So the next picture though, I just put another picture of salt in here for some reason, but there you go. He says, you are the light of the world. Now we get this one, okay? Now just so you know, Jesus is years and years before Thomas Edison. And so there are no light bulbs, but they did have fire and candles and oil burning lamps and things like that. So they understood this idea that to have light in a dark place is very helpful. It's rare that we run into somebody who's afraid of the light. And I'm not talking about like vampires and things like that. Like for real, like there's very few times when you guys are changing classes during the day and somebody goes outside, oh, it's the light outside. Like nobody freaks out like that, right? But there's plenty of people that are afraid of the dark, right? Even like you live at the student home. You've lived there for 2 years, but you're a junior now. You lived there for like 2 years and some months. You stayed every break. But it gets a little dark outside, and the basketball rolls into the grass at the end of the driveway. You're like, I'll get that tomorrow. If at all. Right? Because I don't know, like, some swamp creature's going to come and lay eggs in it or something. I was down, I don't want to pick it up. We're afraid of the dark. Some of us. We sleep, we have a night light or the hall light or, all the lights or whatever, And so we understand this idea that there's just something about, and some of you are like, I don't mind the dark, but every night, like if you find yourself, I used to work at a church, and you're like, oh, church, it should be safe in the dark. Here's the thing, it was an old church, okay? And it had like this creepy organ at the front, like Phantom of the Opera style. And so it had these creaky wooden floors, because the building was from 1794. And the only light at night was from 2 green exit signs. I remember one time I left something in there and I had to go in at night, and I was like, you're walking, and it's like, if I run and I hit something, then I'm gonna fall, and then they're gonna get me. So, I gotta go slow, I gotta be methodical about this, but then every step it's like, creak, you're like, wait, was that me or was that somebody else? And I was, every time this happened, I would freak out, and this is before like cell phones were cool enough to have flashlights built in, so I'd like turn on my phone, but it was like nothing. I mean, I could've like, breathed more light into the room than I was getting from my cell phone, and so, I was so afraid that somebody was going to be on the organ and was going to play like that. And I would have just like pooped my pants. Sorry, but that's exactly what would have happened. And I would have never been able to work there ever again. But Jesus says you're the light of the world. He says, here's the thing, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. So if you build a city up on a hill and it's lit up at nighttime, people can see it for miles. There's no amount of like covering it with blankets or anything you can do to hide it from people. And he says you don't take a lamp and hide it under a basket, right? Like you don't, if you have a lamp in your room, you might have a lampshade, but nobody like goes camping, turns on a flashlight, and then shoves it inside a cooler and closes the lid. You're like, well, why'd you turn on the light? If you have a light, you let it shine. You don't hide it. Like they had oil burning lamps, so they'd put it under a basket and it would set the whole house on fire. So you just don't do that. God is saying He wants us to be that city on a hill that cannot be hidden. That our light, it says, let your light shine, that people will see the good things that you do and praise your Father in heaven. So they'll see the good things we do and praise God as a result. Not that they'll see the good things we do and be like, they're so great. They'll see the good things we do and be like, God is so great. Because there's something about the way we live that the only explanation for how hard we work at preserving human life, how hard we work at creating goodness in the world, the only explanation is that God must be at work in and through us. Because otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing. We wouldn't have the strength, the perseverance to be that kind to people, to be that patient with people, to be that hopeful or positive. We would be fed up. We would give it up a long time ago. So they would see the good things that we do and praise God as a result. We're not in this for ourselves. Because someday we're going to stand before God and we're not going to want to hear him say, like, hey, you kind of stole my thunder, like a whole lot. Right? We're going to want to hear him say, like Pastor Mike talked about at chapel the other week, well done, good and faithful servant. And so, we're the salt of the earth, we're the light of the world. So he wants us to light where we are. And now you're like, okay, you talked about these examples, like we need to do the thing we've been created to do, so what is that? What is that? There's another picture that Jesus gives where there's an ugly goat, right? Do you guys ever play this game called Goat Simulator? Well, alright, so the guys in my studio are playing it. It's like the most hilarious game I've ever seen in my life. Whoever created it is a weird redneck genius. But that's beside the point. Jesus tells this story. And in my opinion, it's one of the most challenging stories in the entire Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 25. And it's a story Jesus tells about some sheep and some goats. And he's, but they're all, okay, great. But here's what he says. The king will separate the sheep from the goats. And he'll say to the sheep, hey, you've done a great job. I've prepared this amazing existence for you. Enter into it. And he'll say to the goats, you haven't done any of the things I wanted you to do. I'm sorry, I've nothing for you. And here's what distinguishes the sheep from the goats. Because the sheep are like, well, what do we do? And Jesus says this. When I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was sick, you came to visit me. When I was in prison, you came to visit me. When I was naked, you gave me clothing. You did all these things for me. And to the goats he said, I was hungry and you didn't give me anything to eat. I was thirsty and you didn't give me anything to drink. I was sick, I was in jail, I was down and out, and you did absolutely nothing. And it says that both sides will say, well, like, when did we ever see you and not do these things for you? When did we ever see you and do these things for you? And if you get nothing else tonight, please hear this. Jesus says this. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did it for me. Now, the least of these is an interesting phrase, but think about the people you think about least. And Jesus says, whatever you do to those people, you're doing it to me. So when that new student shows up and you invite them to sit with you at lunch, you're not just inviting a new student to sit with you at lunch, you're inviting me, the creator of the universe, the one who knows the amount of hairs on your head, the one who knows how many feet of DNA are coiled up in your cells, the one who knows how much you're worth. You're inviting me to sit with you. But when you see me being bullied and you ignore it, you've ignored me being bullied, not just some random kid that you don't care about. Whatever you do, it's like you're doing it for me. And so, what if we treated every other person on the planet? We say we have the golden rule, like, treat others the way you want to be treated. Let's kick it up a notch. What if we treated every other person on the planet like they were Jesus? Not that they are Jesus, like they show up and you're like, oh, we need to take communion, like, or something crazy like that. But what if we treated them like they are of as much a high position as Jesus Christ, Son of God, Lord of Lords, King of Kings, gave his life to redeem all of us? What if we chose the way we spoke to people that way? in light of that? What if we chose the way we served other people, or the way we managed our time, or the way we purchased items based on loving the least and the last of these? Because someday Jesus is going to say to us, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I dropped all my stuff on the ground, you helped me pick it up. When I was new and I was lost and I was homesick, you were a friend to me. Or it might say, I was hurting and you just piled it on. I had nothing and you took the little bit that I had. And so we want to be the kind of people who do the things that God has created us to do. And He's created us to love people the way that He loves us. And that can manifest itself in a ton of different ways. But the heart of it is that. And so in light of this idea, what we do for the least of these, I'm just going to close and I'm going to show you a video. And this is a way that you guys have been involved in doing stuff for the least of these, some of you already, just through showing up here and being generous. So just give me a second here to get this set up.
Ghana, situated on the western coast of Africa, is home to more than 24 million people. Of those, 7.2 million survive on about $1.25 a day. That's 3 out of every 10 people who hope for little more than the very basic of life's necessities: food, clean water, and to be free of life-threatening illnesses. Compassion's ministry in Ghana began in 2005, and today more than 27,000 children are registered in over 100 compassion-assisted child development centers. Each center serves an average of 240 children, providing them with the assistance and learning opportunities they need to reach their full potential, providing them with hope. For about $1 a day, your sponsorship connects a child with a church-based program that provides food, medical care, education, and tutoring. And your prayers and letters provide a valuable lesson to the child that someone cares, that you care, that God cares. Please sponsor a child in Ghana today.
Thank you, sponsor. May God bless you.
Like Mr. Ogle said, you guys are already doing that. Many of you are giving each week to Compassion, to little John and Miriam, so thank you for doing that. We did get a letter from John. Of course, he is young, but he likes to eat fried eggs on top of Indomie, which I'm probably saying wrong, but it's pretty much like you would have your instant noodles. He puts it in a little bowl, warms it up, and then puts a fried egg on that. His favorite color is blue. Favorite animal is a dog. And he has a best friend whose name is Nana Bobolo. And he also, as many of you, Pastor Mike told me this, he's an aspiring Milton Hershey School male, because at the age of 6, he's already drawing pictures of girls. But he thanks you all for his sponsorship and prayers, and he hopes that you guys all have a great day and be happy. So we did get a letter. We're hoping to get a letter from Miriam as well. For those of you who have been giving money, thank you. For those of you who are still wondering what it's all about, it's just a way to give to others what we've been given so much. So keep that in mind as we go and continue. Mr. Ogle asked me to pray, and then you guys are dismissed to scan out. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for who you are. Help us as we go back to our student homes, go back into the flow of Milton Hershey School. Help us to be the sheep. Help us to be strong. Help us to be caring for the least of these in everything that we do and say. Thank you for this evening. Be with little John and little Miriam and help them to continue to grow, continue to be safe through our work and Compassion's work and our donations and gifts to them. Just be with them, be with us. Amen.
Thanks for coming, everybody.